Hello and welcome to the Glasgow Rangers Nation Sunday supplement. Not live. No, we're not live actually, are we? We're just recorded. We are recorded, not live. There we go. It's changed the background. Right. Well, we're going to talk about yesterday's performance against Manchester United. We're also going to talk a little bit as well about worrying rumours, reports about the future of Phillipe Clement at Rangers and how he might have reached his wit's end with our board, which, you can't really blame him on that one. You really can't. But let's start off with a reflection from yesterday first, before we talk about those worrying Phillipe Clement exit rumours. Right, so I'm going to be honest with you. Yesterday's performance against Manchester United was poor. It was poor. There was element of positivity, and we will try and stay and get some positive from it, because I think it's important. Because if you continue to go down this negative route, you're going to go absolutely mental, and I'm starting to go a bit mental, if you ask me. But I've got to say, it's not just me that's saying this, and it's not just me that is worried. I listened to David Edgar's post-match reaction on Heart and Hand, and thought he was absolutely spot on when he talked about the fact that we need at least three forward players and a centre back. And the fact that the forward players we have at this moment in time are just not good enough. I think very true indeed. I also listened to the fantastic Club at 22, their reaction, Scott and Ali. Again, just spot on, absolutely spot on, that they both were very, very worried. Very similar from This Is Ibrox as well. It seems to be the overwhelming feeling. In fact, on Twitter, this is what Club at 22 put out. He said that this is what they tweeted out after the game. That was absolutely grim. There is no change. There is no new ideas. It's the same. Very worrying just how poor we are right now. Add to that 4 lads who are club partners. If we are really honest, worrying lack of quality in this team. 2 weeks till the season starts, and we are genuinely miles away. Forward positions, there is very little. I've got to say, I wholeheartedly agree with the sentiments of Stevie and 4 lads, and I also wholeheartedly agree with the sentiments of Ali Scott and the rest of the Club at 22 crew. So let's deal with some facts and reality. We are 14 days. Actually, it'll be 13 now, because I recorded this Saturday night. So 13 days away from the start of the season. 13 days away from returning to Edinburgh to take on Hearts. And I'll be absolutely honest with you, this team that we put out yesterday, this squad that we currently have will drop points. They thought they were poor, very poor. We are approximately 16 days away. Maybe even it could be 17 if we play on the 7th, away from the first Champions League qualifier. Is this squad ready? Is this team ready for that? The answer to that question is, of course, absolutely not. Now, I know what's going to come back. You know what people say, there's plenty of time left in the transfer window. Don't worry, you're getting all het up. It's only this, etc., etc. But the issue that a lot of people seem to be missing is that we are just 13 days away from the start of the season, and signing players is not going to be quick. The fact that we are being told again that it is a sell to buy situation. The thing is, when you bring in a new player, you need to give that player time to settle into their new environment. You need to give that player time to bed in, time to get used to the tactics, time to get used to his teammates. Realistically, we need to move very, very quickly now, and we need to add players very quickly now if we are going to be ready for the start of this season, and certainly if we're going to be ready for those Champions League qualifiers. For me, we are miles and miles and miles away. For me, this squad looks poorer than the squad that we finished last season with. For me, this team performed poorer than the team we finished last season with. That's how bad it was. Now, I know it's just pre-season, but I'm not looking for the complete performance. Before anyone says it's pre-season, calm down. Fine, yeah, I understand. What I'm saying is, I genuinely don't see patterns of play. I genuinely don't see patterns of attacking play. I see the same defensive mistakes being made. I see the same lackluster use of the ball. I see the same awful play from the same players making the same mistakes as they made last season and seemingly getting away with it. So to me, there is no improvement there. To me, it is the exact same. And if we honestly believe that the exact same will work next season as we had last season, then we're clearly deluded. Albert Einstein once famously said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And Rangers at this moment in time are quite clearly insane. Now, it was even after the game in the post-match interview, it was Alex Ray who was put up to speak to the media. And this is what David Edgar tweeted out after the presser that he had with Alex Ray. He said, I asked Alex Ray what areas we are looking to strengthen before Hearts. He says, we are looking at a number of areas. It will also depend on players leaving as they would need to be replaced. So, as he was saying, again, it is sell to buy. There is, at this moment in time, a situation where if we want a new player, we've got to sell a player. So one in, one out. Now, I get there's reasons for that. The squad size, the wage bill, etc., etc. But it is concerning that Rangers are perceivably going through a rebuild, a revolution, and it sounds more like a retreat to me than a revolution. It is about as effective as the Italian army in the Second World War, where there is more reverse gears on their tank than forward gears. It certainly seems that is the way with our board and with our football board at this moment in time. The progress is exceptionally slow. I mean, realistically, if we look at the two teams that faced off against each other yesterday, at this moment in time, barring, actually not even barring anyone, I mean, perhaps barring a couple of players coming back to fitness. They're fit at the moment, but I mean, full match fitness. I mean, Cortez and Danilo, of course. That's probably our strongest lineup that we currently have at the club, which is worrying. The fact that Scott Wright continues to get a game. I mean, how Scott Wright continues to play for Rangers is absolutely beggars belief. Just again yesterday, yes, one or two nice touches, but absolutely no end product whatsoever. That's our best squad, and you look at the bench, and the bench has very little impact. It has very little game-changing capabilities. At this moment in time, it's weak. Now, you look at the Manchester United team that absolutely just didn't even need to get out of second gear to beat us. It really didn't. And, realistically, there's not many of those players that will be first-team players come their first Premier League game. This was a Manchester United team without Garnacho. This was a Manchester United team without Rasmus Højlund, without Bruno Fernandes, without Lindelof. A team that was missing Lisandro Martinez, a team that was missing Marcus Rashford, a team that was missing Anthony, a team that was missing Kobe Mainoo, a team that was missing Luke Shaw. Realistically, you look down that lineup and you've probably got, I don't know, Onana will play first team, Wan-Bissaka, that's two, Mason Mount won't. Ahmad is a possibility, but it's more likely that Anthony will start ahead of him. Casemiro, possible, but has been pushed out in recent years. Sancho, definitely not. So you've probably only got in that team Yoro, Wan-Bissaka and Onana, who are guaranteed first team players. In the second half, they made 10 changes, leaving on only Onana and taking off all first teamers. And again, looked comfortable and scored a quite frankly easy goal. I mean, both of Manchester United's goals were down to absolutely piss poor defending by Rangers. The first one was down to, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Ahmad is a very, very good player, And I think someone who will go on to be a very, very fine footballer. I don't think we ever got anywhere near the best out of him at Rangers when we had him. He certainly had a very successful spell at the Stadium of Light for Sunderland the season after and seems to be growing into the role for Manchester United. I mean, obviously last season he scored the winner against Liverpool in the Cup and, a great goal. But the goal that he scored in terms of that goal was pretty much down to the fact that Hefte's defending was absolutely shite. I mean, the one thing you don't do with a left-footed player is show him inside onto his left foot. It is defending 101. And Hefte failed. Now, I'm not slagging off Hefte. I'm not slaughtering. I'm not saying he's a bad player because he isn't. He's going to be a good player. Going forward, he looks dangerous. But going backwards, he looks James Tavernier-esque. He cannot defend. He needs more coaching. He needs more development. He needs more work on his defensive skills. Now, the one thing that Hefte has going in his favour is he's still a young player. So there's still a lot of room for development. I thought yesterday, defensively, he was absolutely appalling. And that Ahmad absolutely ran rings around him. Yes, granted, Ahmad is probably the best winger he is going to face, apart from possibly in Europe, if we come across some European teams who will have some very, very good players, depending, of course, what competition we are in, if we are still in Europe, after August, September time. So look, I mean, that is worrying. I mean, Ridvan, I thought was fantastic when he came on. He did really, really well. I mean, that was one positive, how good Ridvan was. I think Ridvan has to start. Has to be the starting left back. I don't think there's any question that Hefte would be the starting left back. I think he's got an awful lot of work to do to become a proper quality player. I thought we'll finish on a positive. We'll finish on the positives. There is a positive upcoming, so please hang on for that. I thought that Ben Davies for the second goal was absolutely shocking. Yet again, failed to track his man. A straight ball through the middle, run and not track. Davies pulled out of position. Suter nowhere covering. And an easy finish from youngster Hugh Gill. Just absolutely piss poor defending again by Rangers. And again, it is another example of piss poor defending. And it's been the same now. You know, the first goal we conceded against Ajax a week ago, piss poor defending. You know, again yesterday, piss poor defending. The defence needs a massive overhaul. The defence is such a worry. It really is. I think the fullback positions are fine with Sterling and Ridvan. But centre half wise, if we start the season with John Suter and Ben Davies as our starting centre-backs, or even John Suter and Liam Balogun, or even, God forbid, Connor Goldson and another, then major red flags need to be put out around Ibrox, because this defence is going to be absolutely torn to shreds. Perhaps not by some of the poorer teams in the SPL, but certainly by some of the better teams in the SPL. I think we'll go on to concede the same goal after the same goal after the same goal. I thought Cyril Dessers yesterday was absolutely fucking dreadful again. He just looked slow. He moaned more than he actually did in the game. He spent more time falling on his arse, getting up, throwing his arms out wide and having a whinge at the referee. He couldn't trap a bag of cement. He had that one chance where it comes into his feet. If he just plays it out of his feet, he's got a great chance to go in on goal and shoot, but he gets all tangled up in his feet. His first touch is just appalling. There's another one where he could have played Rabbi Matondo in with a good pass. He hideously overhits it. He was absolute toilet yesterday. Absolutely awful. Again, and against Ajax, he was awful. And if this is our starting number 9 for the new season, we are in trouble. We are in absolute trouble, because he's miles off it. Absolutely miles off it. And it's worrying. It's worrying. And as David Edgar said, there was just nothing up front. Nothing up front. And David Edgar himself, said that Dessers was nowhere near good enough yesterday. So, this is not just me calling out Dessers. These are, well-respected people of fan media who, are in with the club, who are calling out these players. But like I said, Dessers just shocking. Absolutely shocking. And I'm sick to death of hearing these. He scored 22 goals last season. Yeah, and he missed 28 big chances. He should be scoring 22 goals. He plays for bloody Rangers up front. We create sackloads of chances for the strikers, and he only scored 16 in the league. Not good enough. One goal in Europe. If you think that's good enough for a Rangers striker, it's not. Right, let's try and finish on a positive as regards yesterday's game. I thought that these 4 did well. I'm not going to say brilliantly. I'm not going to say great. I'm not going to say terrifically. They did well yesterday. I thought Connor Barron and Mohamed Diamande are starting to form a very good midfield pairing if we're going to stick with a 4-2-3-1. I thought Barron sat very well. He was the 6. He allowed Diamande to go create. Barron was intense in the tackle. He snapped into tackles. He chased. He harassed. He harried. He attempted some ambitious passes that didn't come off quite. But, overall, he did well. I thought that Diamande, again, if you watch Diamande up close, he's like a midfield general. He stands, he directs, he points, he tries to run the game from where he is. He seems to be a very, very intelligent player. I thought Dujon was was good at the right back again. Solid going forward when he needed to be, solid in defence, tracked back well, got forward well, supported Scott Wright well. Again, another solid performance by Dujon Sterling. And I think, he is our starting right back for the new season. He is just head and shoulders above James Tavernier. Rabbi Matondo was a mixed bag, but he was lively, he was direct, he tried hard when he came on, he tracked back well. And I think, when you've got literally nothing else, when you've got, a young lad like Ross McCausland who's still got development in him, you've got the awful Scott Wright, an unfit Oscar Cortez at this moment in time. Matondo is pretty much all we've got in terms of actual attacking talent going forward in the wide areas. So he did okay. I'm not saying he was brilliant. I'm not saying he was terrible, but he did okay yesterday. But look, overall, the performance yesterday was appalling. It was absolutely terrible and just unacceptable. Unacceptable. That I'm not talking about what I'm talking about here, guys. If anyone said it's pre-season, was just the elements of not seeing any new attacking patterns. We've just been away at a training camp, for heaven's sake. No new attacking patterns, no new defensive patterns, no real urgency in the way we play. It didn't look any better. It really didn't. And you want to start to see progress at this point of preseason. I'm not saying you get the perfect finished article before anyone criticizes me for that. What I'm saying is you want to see progress, and we aren't seeing it at this moment in time. Genuinely not seeing it. Right, I was watching Phillipe Clement yesterday on the sidelines, and he wasn't his usual self. I didn't think he wasn't, as bombastic. He wasn't as, loud. He didn't seem to be his normal self. He seemed a bit disheartened. He seemed a bit like, is this all I've got? Is this it? Is this as well as we can do? Is there nothing else? To me, he looked fed up. He really did. And then obviously Alex Ray comes out for the media availability afterwards. I'll be honest with you. There was a report in the media the other day. Chris Boyd was speaking about Phillipe Clement, and he was talking about the possibility of Clement walking. I think that would possibly go against the character of the man. I don't think he's a quitter. I don't think he's someone who gives up. But, given the fact that he's been brought into the club for a rebuild, given the fact he's been brought into the club to put this team right, to put right the mistakes of the past, I think he's got a very good plan for doing it. But for me, he's been asked to do what he's planned and what Niels Koppen has planned with two arms tied behind his back. And he's going to be asked to fight Celtic next season with two arms tied behind his back. For me, we're not giving him a fair crack at the whip. I understand he'll get criticism. Of course he will. Some of our fans will. They are fickle. That's the nature of being a football fan. I'm not criticizing them for it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that that's what being a football fan is. But, there's a real possibility, a genuine possibility that, given the fact that this man is a winner, given the fact this man wants his players. He talked last season, didn't he, about the fact that there was only 4 players that he saw in that squad that he felt could play the way he wanted them to play for 3 games a week, for 65 games a season. And that's worrying. The fact as well in an interview that he said that the only irreplaceable player that he had was Jack Butland. It speaks volumes for me that, that does. It really does. And I think he is becoming increasingly fed up. I think he's becoming increasingly disheartened. I think he's becoming increasingly aggravated by this board. And I think he was quite clearly promised something that has not been delivered. He was quite clearly asked to do a job, and then the job that he took was not the job that he applied for. It's not the job that was advertised. It's like, I suppose, going in and you are going to be the manager of the whole business. This is the whole business. It is yours to run. And then you get the job and you go, well, actually, no, you're not having the whole business. You're just having this small part of it because we didn't actually tell you the truth about what we wanted you to do. Oh, yeah, and you'll have no staff to do it. You got to do it by yourself. Interesting. I think, the board, for me, did mislead him, did genuinely mislead Big Phil. And like I said, at the time when this story broke, I wouldn't have blamed Big Phil for walking. I genuinely wouldn't. I think there's a strong possibility he could go. I genuinely do. And I don't mean be sacked. I think there's a genuine possibility he could hand his resignation and walk away from this and just say, sorry, it's not doable. I'm going to end up damaging my own reputation. I'm going to end up damaging my own stock in terms of being a manager because you're not willing to back me. You're giving me this dross to try and turn into some sort of winning team. And, it probably will be good enough to finish second in the SPL. Why? Because the other teams are so shit. Because the Hearts, the Hibs, the Aberdeens, the Achilles of this world are just shit. There's only really Celtic, and at this moment in time, do I think this squad's good enough to beat Celtic? No, I don't. They haven't lost. Yes, they've lost O and they've lost a couple of other players, but overall, that squad that they had hasn't substantially weakened. And, they don't need to sign as many players as us because they've already got a championship winning team. Whether it was a weak team last year or the worst Celtic team in years, they still won a title. So for me, Clement is quite clearly looking and cutting a frustrated figure. And like I said, I genuinely think in what Boydie was saying in terms of, him actually walking out on this job, there's a possibility. There's a genuine possibility. And, managers in the past have done this. They've just got to a point where they're working with the board and they say, I'm sorry, what you're asking me to do is just not possible. You can't do it, with what you're giving me to do this. I would be annoyed if Clement walked, not Clement, at the board, at the club, that they have, crossed up this opportunity to allow him to, to actually turn this club round. I think he can turn the club round. I think Niels Koppen can turn the club round if they're backed. And the issue I've got at the moment is they've not been properly backed by this board. And I'm not talking about just buying player after player and adding to this. What I'm talking about is the way that this whole club has been run and is being run in terms of not getting players, out of players off the books quick enough. And there's a lot of players that we've got and we're stuck with because in the past they have not been managed properly. They've been given ridiculous contracts. That means we're now stuck with them because people won't pay what they're currently on and they won't take pay cuts. Rightly so. There is a real mismanagement of this club and we're suffering because of that mismanagement. We're suffering an inability to move on the dead wood because of the mismanagement of the past. And what you've got to remember is the past is also the present. A lot of this board were around during the Park and Robertson years when things were done badly. Bennett was vice chair, for God's sake. During that period, he signed off on these contracts. He signed off on these deals. So for me, there is a possibility that he could walk. And I wouldn't blame him if he did. I genuinely wouldn't blame him if he did. Guys, let me know what you think of what we said this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever you pick up the video. It's difficult at the moment. Trying to find positives to come out with at this moment in time about this football club is very, very hard. Like I said, I thought Dujon was fantastic. Connor Barron looks a player. He really does. Mo Diamande looks a player. It's good to see Jack Butland as captain as well. And hopefully that's something that will continue into next season. But, that's the few positives you can pick out of yesterday's game. I mean, outplayed by a Manchester United B team effectively in second gear. Guys, let me know what you think anyway in the comments. As always, on the way out, there's two things I ask of you. Number one, to smash the like. And number two, please remember always, we are the people.